Hello there, this is Critical from Critical Media, just taking a look at the 2024 hardcover release of Houses of the Unholy by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. And what we usually do at this channel is give you an idea of what to expect if you ever come across these books in the wild. So we go over the exterior, some bonus material, art and plot points, and then a brief review at the end. Although admittedly there's not much in terms of bonus material, it's very much a blunt narrative, that's for sure. But anywho, at least getting back to the nature of this channel, it is a standard hardcover, very similar to those other solo releases from this winning combination. So, like Night Fever, Where the Body Was. Those tend to have like a very standard cover release, but they're just like one and dones, So I appreciate these kind of graphic novels because, they just tell the story, keeps it all contained, that kind of jazz. I love it. But yeah, outside of that, you pretty much have a basic cover here with just the Natalie Burns profile when she was younger and this foil design on the lettering. That's pretty much the two standouts, and of course the little blood trail. And that does extend upon the exterior here, even with the lettering. And as per Image Comics releases, a flat design. I always like that about them. And yeah, pretty much the same on the rear of the book as well. So yeah, nothing crazy going on. Although there's no bonus material, I do feel like you have to highlight these bookends. I don't know, there's something intricate about the pattern design, and this particular release has a lot of Sean Phillips in it. Like, he's actually in charge of the way this whole book apparently laid out, so pretty impressive that they gave him that much control. And yeah, you'll see what I mean, where there's really not much in terms of bonus material at all. Like, the narrative ends, and yeah, you just have pretty much the same kind of fare you have from a trade paperback, just promoting other books. Although, when it comes to Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, that's an awesome combo. I can pretty much recommend every single book here. Probably the only one I wouldn't recommend as much as the others is Pulp, and that's not even a bad thing. It's like, that story's still awesome. Personally, Kill or Be Killed is always going to be the king for me. Gosh, I've been hunting that book for years. But yeah, other than that, you just have some standard biographies here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Not even an interview or anything like that. But as I said, this book is very much on the nose when it comes to the story it's trying to tell. And speaking of which, the story itself, with a name like Houses of the Unholy, you'd think it'd be on some paranormal aspects. Now, there is a bit of that at the very end, but that's all besides the point. I would say this as well, though. This story weighs heavily on, your knowledge of the satanic panic from the 80s. Like, it was just one of those fear-mongering things that apparently, human society, we keep doing every little bit, like it's a cycle. You have it from centuries ago, you have it as recent as like McCarthyism, but mind you, that was using more of the whole Cold War fears, the whole socialist movement. Oh, if that person's a communist, you point them out, you're scared of them, you'll even rat out your neighbors, and then it'll cause a whole bunch of problems. That's pretty much what this narrative is expecting you to have a previous, encounter or knowledge of. But anywho, it just pretty much centers around this character, the vehicle character here, Natalie Burns, all grown up in the modern narrative. And yeah, she's basically deprogramming, kids who enter cults and whatnot, so she'll kind of grab them, kind of try and rescue them kind of thing. The parents will hire her. She's kind of like a PI in that sense. But, she'll get bagged and whatnot herself. But I like how, every now and again, the book kind of goes back to this, this past event that's very intrinsic, or should I say integral, to the actual narrative itself. It's the most important aspect of it. And that she was a part of a whole, kind of like a Mick Martin thing, like from the 80s. As a matter of fact, that Mick Martin thing's pretty huge to the satanic panic, and that's exactly what this is. Basically very similar to that real world scenario where a bunch of preschool kids, they basically accuse their teachers of making them do strange things, going down to the basement of the school and being a part of rituals or whatnot. Essentially it ruined these teachers' careers, essentially, and it's always mired with that whole, wait, did it really happen? Is there a little bit of truth in what happened? Maybe no weird supernatural, but maybe something else was going on. Surprisingly, in this narrative, it's pretty much on the nose of what happened with these kids when they were younger. This whole, elaborate lie that just got way too big. And that's kind of the way that whole satanic panic thing kind of fleshed out as well. Like, there's tons of people who are still dealing with the ramifications of that. A lot of, like, what's the word? Like, false accusations, to the point of people going to prison. So it was a real world fear. And go figure, Ed Brubaker kind of uses that as the crux of everything. But it's kind of brilliant how, yeah, the color overlays and whatnot, they always kind of, always set you with that expectation. Okay, this is the past narrative. Let's now appreciate what's going on in the modern. And that's kind of what's going on here. In this case, yeah, those same friends of hers, or all those kids that were involved with that big lie from when they were in school, all of a sudden they're getting picked off, and she's now a target as well, to the point where an FBI agent comes in to try and, I guess, act as her protective custody as well as investigating the situation. But it also ends up outlining this big conspiracy that's going on as well. As usual, Ed Brubaker nails it on the way it's all conveyed. And that's a huge aspect of this book, I find, because the thing about this narrative, it's not the most grandiose of Ed Brubaker's or Phillips' work. I do find others are better. But the one thing that this book does exceptionally well is pacing. It never really wastes time. It never beats you over the head with the same idea. The narrative has like 140 pages just to tell its story, and he definitely makes the most of it. And that's what I definitely can take a huge appreciation for from this narrative, because that was pretty huge. But you'll kind of you might have heard me mention how this book has a little bit of, surreal paranormal aspects, and probably the most haunting page in this book is this, like one of her memories when she was younger in this very happy cottage, and just this one little creepy event happens. It's pretty trippy because it is a little integral to the rest of the narrative. But yeah, ultimately it's a pretty sweet book. You'll notice I'm being quite brief about it, because if I talk too much about what it's about, there's too much I reveal if I do it. And as mentioned, it's a pretty short narrative. But I have to admit, as usual, I love the whole aspect, or the way Sean Phillips approaches the art in all of these Brubaker pairings. Because, as mentioned, all the anatomies are correct. It fits very well. It doesn't try to go a little too bombastic or anything like that. And yeah, with Jacobs on it, I guess, yeah, that familiar relationship, after all, Sean Phillips and Jacob, father and son combo, it kind of makes sense that the art and the colors kind of match up pretty well, since, yeah, it just has that overall tone that just feels the right way throughout the whole book. But yeah, in all honesty, yeah, this was one where I would say definitely sample it, maybe just give it a quick read over once, because I have to admit, a lot of it you can kind of tell you can kind of see the ending happening already, kind of thing. It doesn't really surprise you too much until the final page, where you're just wondering, okay, is this whole narrative all about like this woman living a personal hell, or is it just a whole surreal aspect going on? It's pretty trippy by the end of it, but I will say, this is one of the few Ed Brubaker books where I say you don't have to own it. Maybe sample it, give it a read, and yeah, maybe take your own judgment from it. But 'tis the season, at least as per the release of this video. It is the right kind of surreal, because it kind of reminds me of that film Ninth Gate. It's very much well grounded in reality until like the final few moments of that film, where it's like, wait, did that just really happen? And that's kind of what this book does. I don't want to reveal it. It's something that you only grasp if you really were taking it in. But anywho, that's just my 2 cents on this release. Hopefully you guys have your own. And I wouldn't mind, as always, seeing it in the comments down below. Y'all folks take care.